Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 123, we are very lucky to have James Mulvany on the podcast. He is the founder and CEO of Radio.co, podcast.co, and Matchmaker.fm. We talked about a number of different things. We talked about how he got himself started as an entrepreneur 15 years ago, and basically what he did to get himself up to where he is today. We talked about podcasts in general and like how they may be affecting the world, and yeah, as well as other subjects as well. So please sit back, enjoy this podcast, and have a fantastic day. Please subscribe, and yeah, enjoy the show. Hey, peace. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. I do hope you're having a good day. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. This is episode 123, where I have the immense pleasure of having James Mulvany on. He is the CEO and founder of radio.co, podcast.co, and a matchmaker.fm. How are you today, sir?
I'm wicked, thanks. How's it going?
I am good. I'm good. We are in the month of March. Lockdown seems to be just on the fringes of going away. So yeah, smiles all around. I'll be able to get into a gym soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're 128 episodes in, did you say?
123 episodes in.
123. Congratulations. Yeah. That's a good achievement.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. The thing with podcasts, I think like people often say is you get to number 4 or 5 and then they quit.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing it then?
Basically just over, I started, I would say officially September 2019. And then basically all the way through. And I've got to say, have to say on air, big thank you to yourself and like the service you provide, because like, let's just say like the 123 I would have been a ways down the road, but you guys have helped me along that way by helping me hook up with the guests here and there. Yeah. And yeah, just wanted to get you on, 1, to say thank you, and basically 2, to find out a little bit more about yourself, because you have been like an entrepreneur or a business person, how like for the last 15 years.
Yeah. I started when I was a baby. Literally, I just finished school, and I was like, my friends were going out, doing paper rounds and getting part-time jobs and that sort of thing. I was like, I've got this thing in front of me, it's a computer. I just want to see what I can do to kind of make a living. I remember to begin with, I was just thinking, if I could just make a couple of £100 a month, then I won't need to go and get a paper round or whatever, and I can sit here playing games and just having fun and geeking out on the computer. So that's really how it got started. And then sort of fast forward, that was 15, 16 years ago, something like that, maybe even 17 now. And I then sort of went off to university and sort of set up a proper business, quote unquote, selling streaming media services to the radio industry, which was great. And then I was kind of in a lucky position that by the time I graduated, finished uni, didn't need to go and find a job working for anyone else. So I've actually never, ever worked for anyone. So it's been quite an interesting ride.
Excellent. Like, I am curious, like, because like younger James, 15 years ago, what did you manage to make any money as like 15 years ago when you were, I've got a computer, let me just have a go?
Yeah, I did. I mean, the thing was, I probably don't know if this is still the same now, but you had to be 16 to get a PayPal account. Right. So I was like, okay, well, that was how people could pay me money. So I couldn't really do anything until I was 16. So I waited to my 16th birthday, got onto PayPal, signed up. And the first ever job I had, which I remember kind of quite clearly, was designing, because I taught myself how to use Photoshop, so I was all right with sort of graphic design. You know, I could knock up basic logos and things. And the first ever job I had was designing one of those little advertising banners, you know, the flashy ones that you used to see everywhere.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the product it was advertising or the business, but yeah, that was it. And I think the guy paid me like $25 to design this thing, and I was like, you know, 16-year-old, $25. That seemed like a fortune to me, you know. So I was like, brilliant, I'm gonna do more of these. And yeah, that's kind of just how I dipped my toes into the entrepreneurial thing, and really just never looked back.
I've got to say, just like doing a banner ad, getting paid $25 for it, it must have
Yeah.
like what? How long did it take you to do it? Was it like an hour, days, or just like
Yeah, an afternoon. I think I got the order. This again, this was one of these things where I didn't have a portfolio.
Mhm.
I think I just maybe did some examples of stuff I could do for like fake companies, you know, like imaginary companies or whatever, and stuck them up on a sort of bit basic website. This was one of these things where back then there wasn't these sites like Fiverr.com. There was no like freelance website. So there was lots of forums though where people were talking about different things. So I went into a forum, and I just found some guy who posted an ad saying he wants some graphic banners designing. So I thought, right, I'll apply for this. Here's my portfolio of these fake things that I'd made up. And sure enough, he probably didn't know I was a 16-year-old kid, to be honest. You know, but that was exactly how I started. So it was good fun. Happy memories of that.
I can imagine if he went, yeah, I need a photo to see what you look like.
Yeah.
Like, Dad, come here quickly. Click. It's like,
well, the thing was, it was like this was you know, we have something called study leave, don't we? So when you finished your GCSEs, you get like 2 months off where you're supposed to be revising for your exams. And I didn't really like the sound of doing that. So I thought, well, rather than revising for my exams like I should be, I'm going to do this instead. Unfortunately, I still did okay in my GCSEs, but I probably I'm not condoning that. You know, if you're in school, you need to make sure you get your grades. But yeah, I was like, nah, I'm not going to revise. I'm just going to see what else I can do. So I kind of that was sort of like, because I'd never had so much free time before. I remember just being really excited because, you know, suddenly you don't have to go to school. You know, you don't have to be in at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. So you've got the whole week ahead of you, sat at home, and you could just do whatever you like. And rather than wasting time doing, you know, playing computer games or something like that, which I probably did a bit, I thought I'm going to do something productive.
Right. Yeah. Like, put it this way. Little did they say tell you that was going to be most probably the last chunk of free time you're going to have for the rest of your days.
Yeah, absolutely.
So after that, you're like, okay, yeah, university. Like, did you just like sort of carry on with your entrepreneurship, or were you like kind of like you say you didn't get a job, or was it just a case of I had my student loan check and like I'm just putting my head down trying to get through this as much as I can?
I think because so when I was at uni, I grew the business. You know, that I did have my student loan, and I think there were a lot of people. I've always been very good with money. You know, there's a lot of people who used to get the student loan check in every, you know, and they go out and buy the latest Xbox or PlayStation. You know, I would never do that. So I was always like, okay, this is good money to have. It's kind of there in case I need it. And obviously, you know, you can use it to pay for, you know, student halls and this sort of thing. But I always had a business while I was at uni. So I did, by that stage, I was doing web design for different companies, like little businessy things in the local area. And I'd also set up this company called Wave Streaming, which is similar to radio.co, really, what we've got now, selling streaming media services to radio stations.
Wow. Like, setting up a streaming service while you're in university.
Yeah.
Like, how long ago was this?
This was in 2005, 2006, around then. So about 15 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, because streaming, that was kind of a non thing. People,
it was a new technology. Yeah.
But it must have been hell of expensive to sort of get that sort of service up and running.
Well, it was, there was some costs involved. It wasn't a lot. Like, to be completely honest, at the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. Like I'd sort of started learning how to code and build websites, but really I was really very novice. You know, I was at very entry level. And to sort of sell streaming services, you have to be able to set servers up and all this sort of stuff. And I had no idea about that kind of thing. So what I did was I went out and found someone online who kind of knew about the techie stuff. And then really just learned on the job. Like he kind of set it up initially, and I think I just had some, agreement with him where I said I'd give him a percentage of whatever we sold.
Yeah.
So he sort of did that, and then one day he was on the other side of the world. He was actually in Australia, this guy, and so I remember one day he's turned around to me and said, "I'm moving house." So I said, "Okay, well that's fine." He said, "My internet might be down for a week or something because obviously I need a new connection in the new house."
Yeah.
So he disappeared off the face of the internet. 2-3 weeks rolled past. We were having new customers, new orders coming in.
Yeah.
And I was like, "This guy's, has he gone? Is he ever going to come back?" So at that stage, I had to really learn what he was doing and figure it all out. But because I had customers shouting my ears saying, "I've signed up, where's my service?" And he wasn't there to kind of provision it and get it going. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, and after that, once I'd learned to do it myself, I learned the technical aspects of it. Kind of just went from there, really.
Yeah. So basically, like getting expertise in, but
Yeah.
like it's like starting to become the sort of jack of all trades.
Yeah, and also just to some extent as well, like don't be scared if you don't know about something. Don't let it hold you back. Say that you do know about it, and then figure out how to do it later on. The Richard Branson came out with that quote famously, and this is literally what I did when I was sort of starting out. I really didn't know enough, but I was keen to learn. But like I said, yeah, we can do this. We can provide these services, and then you just have to figure it out because it pushes you to that extreme sort of level where you're outside your comfort zone, and if you've got clients who are shouting down your ear saying, "Where's our services?"
Yeah.
Well, then you've got to figure out a way of getting the service to the client and making sure you're delivering on your promise. So it's kind of a good way of starting a business in that respect because as I say, it pushes you.
Right. Like I get a vibe from you when you say Richard Branson. Like, okay, if we went along with the mobile phones and technology like that, you would have like you would set up how he first started with 3 sort of public telephone boxes and like running back and forth like, hello, yes, Virgin Media.
Yeah,
like
exactly. Different office numbers. Yeah.
Brilliant. So one of the things which I have to say I'm curious about, and like, yeah, now radio. Like,
Yeah.
I know you did a number of sort of other companies where you kind of like they rose and they fell and they rose and they fell, but radio 6 years ago, like,
yeah,
radio.
Well, because I've always loved radio. I've always loved listening to radio as a DJ, and that was really where my interest came from. Because I suppose there was a period where I was going to go into the radio industry just before I went off to university. I started getting work experience in local radio stations, that sort of thing. So it's just something I've always been passionate about. I think it's a great medium. It's still as popular as ever. Interestingly, during like sort of this time last year, March, April, when the first lockdown happened, we saw this huge increase in listeners tuning into our clients' radio stations. We host about 5,000 different radio stations on behalf of different customers, ranging from every genre of music you could possibly imagine, like 60s acid jazz through to like mainstream rock, whatever. And also lots of corporate stuff for clients, record labels, big clubbing brands, that kind of thing. So a real range of diverse, different sort of products or different channels. And yeah, we just across the board, we saw probably 3 times the amount of traffic coming through our network than we normally see before lockdown. And this is just because people like the fact that there's someone on the other end of the line. Yes, you can listen to Spotify or Apple Music and you can, dial in whatever playlist suits your taste. But at the end of the day, it's still just a computer generating that playlist. There's not that element of human interactivity there. So I think that's why we saw this big increase during lockdown. And I think it's really fascinating and just proves that radio is still prominent as ever.
Yeah, no, I agree with radio being prominent because people like driving when people used to drive many years ago and travel places.
Absolutely, yeah.
Needed to like listen to a radio and basically get their media somehow.
Yeah.
But like what I've noticed, I would say definitely in the last few years is with the realms of radio, it's become much more sort of multifaceted because it's a case of you've got your radio station and like one particular organization, what comes to mind is the Breakfast Club. They're
Yep.
based in New York. They've got their radio station. They do their YouTube channel, and like they're doing podcasting. I don't know. Is it have how what I'm trying to get at is, do you find most of the people which use your service purely just stick to radio, or they sort of putting their toes in other pies?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like, I think we see everything. We see everything. So we do see people who, customers who sign up and they are just a radio station, like you traditionally imagine. We see people who, I think, if you're launching a radio station now, you do need to think about like cross-channel. It can't just be your on-air presence. You've got to be thinking about how you're going to be communicating outside of the station. So social media, video, to draw it down to what's on your website, what content you're pushing out on there. And I always think, Absolute Radio, a really good, strong kind of online presence. If you look at their Twitter account, they just have some brilliant posts which causing so much engagement, and obviously that's driving, it's building brand advocacy, driving more listeners to their station. And it's just like simple stuff, like they'll post on Twitter, like, which biscuits ranked out, which is your favorite biscuit ranked out 5 to 10. They'll have like chocolate digestive, custard cream, blah blah blah, or which crisps are the best crisps, just things like this. So it's just stuff that's kind of like everyone can relate to, everyone has an opinion of, but it's really good way of driving traffic to their brand, and kind of causing that engagement outside of the actual, the radio itself.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask, what is your favorite chocolate biscuit or biscuit?
I liked I like the chocolate bourbons.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, and Jaffa cakes are obviously good as well. But is Jaffa cake a cake or a biscuit? That's the question.
Like, this is the thing. I love a Jaffa cake too, and
Yeah.
because I'm not a tea drinker, a bourbon wouldn't be the sort of first obvious choice. But
It's definitely one for dipping in your tea, isn't it? Really?
yeah, I'm just like going, yeah. But if I had to just have a straight up biscuit, chocolate digestive would be the thing I would go to.
Cool.
I stay away from the hobnobs, but still, that's another story.
Yeah.
So with this, like the sort of rise, I can't say rise, but the sort of influx on radio and it going in a certain direction.
Yeah.
I don't know what that sort of direction is. Do you sort of have a clearer view where that might be?
Well, I think, there's certainly been a shift. There's certainly been a big increase in podcasts over the last couple of years. That's clear as daylight. I think consumers want more choice in terms of, a lot of radio stations are diversifying. So they'll have like the same station, but they'll have like a dance version of it, or they'll have like country music or whatever. So they're giving consumers more choice in terms of the radio. In terms of podcasting, you can go out now and find a podcast on pretty much any topic you can imagine. And there's still huge opportunity to grow there. Like Apple announced last year they'd hit 1 million podcasts on iTunes or Apple Podcast Directory, which sounds like a lot, but if you think about the number of YouTube channels out there or Instagram accounts, it's still quite a low number. So I still think there's plenty of opportunity for people to get into podcasting as a medium.
Yeah, no, I was talking to a gentleman in New York named Kevin James, and one of the things we were talking about is like, because he works sort of heavily in the sort of music area.
Yeah.
He was talking about how sort of the quality of music's gone down because they've got to go to sort of Spotify playlists or streaming playlists, and it's like 2 minutes. I think it was like 2 minutes 20 seconds is the sort of length of music they're talking about. But I was like, but with sort of like Spotify sort of doing a hefty move into the podcasting arena, like Frig, Joe Rogan, 100 million, Harry and Meghan at 30 million recently. And like, yeah, they're sort of finding that more. I was like, surely that's going to start eating into sort of music playtime, because Joe Rogan podcast, as we know, it can be a marathon. And the sort of typical podcast can be anything from like, half an hour to an hour,
Yeah. Well, I don't know how true this is one of the things that we've sort of talked about in the office before. Like, I think Spotify obviously didn't have podcasts on their platform at all until about 2.5 years ago.
Mm,
Um, One of the things with Spotify as a business is obviously they have to pay lots of royalties. So I don't know actually how profitable it is as a business, but of course, if they're putting podcasts on there, much of which are being created by people like you and I, so we're not talking like Joe Rogan and Meghan Markle, etc. I'm just talking about like people who are creating podcasts. Spotify then, streaming that media, they can still put advertising over it, but they're not paying royalties, which kind of is a bit imbalanced because obviously if you're a commercial artist, you've got music on Spotify, you get royalties. If you've got your podcast on Spotify, they're still going to run adverts on your podcast
yeah.
for free members of Spotify, but you don't actually see any of that revenue.
Mm, interesting. Yes.
But then I think also the argument of them bringing on like Joe Rogan and sort of celebrity brands is because that they want to they want to make it more of a destination, don't they? It's just, again, it's about buying that audience and having it come to Spotify. So obviously they're just trying to grow the platform as a whole. But that's the difference. Whereas if someone's got a free Spotify account and they stream music, that costs them a lot of money in terms of royalties. So the advertising is there to balance it out. It's much more profitable with podcasts because most podcasters aren't being paid anything by Spotify.
No.
Yeah.
Don't I know it?
Yeah.
Don't you know it? But still, that's no, yeah, no. I think with regards to sort of like people who are coming up and like they're trying to find their way in the whole sort of realm of podcasting, and that they're going, yes, I need to get paid. I need to make it happen like today. I would say if you want it to happen today, you should have started 3 years ago, maybe
Yeah.
4 years ago. It's not.
I like that. I like that expression as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, like what would you say to someone who is a fresh podcaster coming into the realms of it?
Okay, so top 3 tips would be perhaps firstly be consistent. Make sure that you're actually releasing an episode every time you say you're going to release one. Um, Number 2, have a good idea of what your strategy is going to be, what you're actually going to be talking about. Try and be a sort of methodical about it in terms of don't just think about what episode number 1 or 2 is going to be like. Let's try and map out like the whole season. So you say maybe got the first 10 episodes that you're going to create and the kind of topics you might want to discuss on each of those episodes. And then thirdly, just make sure that you're actually thinking about the listener and trying to cause engagement with yourself as the host and the listener. There's too many podcasters that will sort of sit there and put content out without trying to get any feedback and have a conversation. So I think it's really important to try and build that into your strategy from the get-go. So you're not only being strategic about what your content's going to be, but also how you're going to try and cause that engagement.
Yeah, no, I think those are some very good tips. I might pinch 1 or 2 for myself, but yeah, I will. Sorry, I can't cut you a check or anything like that. But
That's all right. I mean, one of the easiest things, especially when it comes to listener engagement, is just have an email address that you can read out at the end of every episode and just say, "Look, what did you think about it? Have you got any ideas? What would you like to hear more of? This sort of thing. Just try and get people kind of talking to you."
Brilliant, love it, love it.
Mm.
I love those tips. They're great, and I think that's sort of key advice people should take on board. And like this is the thing, it's one of those things where when you hear it, you go, that's a little bit obvious, but you don't
Simple
actually
stuff.
think of it because it's
just simple stuff, yeah. And don't, finally, don't give up. Like I think you mentioned earlier, there's so many podcasts out there where people start doing and they get as far as like episode number 3 and then just give up. Of course, like let's be realistic. Unless you've already got a big following, or you've got a huge marketing budget, of course, the chances is no one's going to listen to your first 3 episodes. But then when you start getting into episode 10, episode 20, you start building that audience. You'll start the listeners will start coming in, but it's just about being consistent and putting in the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I've got to say, with that, you've got to have a sort of like love for the game, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
This is like without that, it becomes that little bit harder. Like, what sort of aspects of podcasting do you love about it?
I think it's great because it's just completely unfiltered. You know, we don't have, there's no legislation saying, you know, like obviously with broadcasting, you can say this, you can't say that. So you can really talk about anything. I think that's great. It's the people's media. I also like the fact that it's just so you can listen so passively. So it's kind of it's not something you need to be consciously looking at or paying attention to. It's something you can have on in the background when you're driving to work or you're doing a workout in the gym or you know you're cooking your dinner or whatever it might be. So I think that's why it's kind of a really great medium. Also for me, I just like meeting people. I just think you know like this conversation we're having today.
Yeah,
You know, it's just such a great tool for networking and for kind of having some really interesting conversations with people.
yeah, indeed. Like speaking of networking, like do you have a podcast yourself? Or like I know you've got a YouTube channel, I know you've got
Yep.
the radio, but like yeah, the podcast side of things.
So yeah, I do have a podcast called Create, Reach, Inspire, which I haven't. Hands up, I haven't actually. I haven't released any episodes for a while,
For
partly
shame,
because we
sir.
had.
For shame.
Yeah, partly because the first. So the first season was just kind of. I was trying to find my feet. It was sort of short bits of business advice. Second season was interviews, but they were all face to face, and we filmed them obviously the back end of 2019.
Mhm.
So they were then being released about this time last year, and then we thought, okay, brilliant. Well, we can film another season later on this summer, and then lockdown happened. So I've sort of put that on hold for a bit, but I do also have I do another podcast which is for Matchmaker, which is I'm like the face of called Matched. You can check that out at pod.co/matched. And it's basically where we just have conversations with different members of the platform, trying to sort of give them some publicity, shine a spotlight on what they've done or what they're doing. And you know, that's really great fun as well.
Brilliant. Yeah. The reason why I asked that because I want it to kind of lead into like how many times have you been interviewed? Because like you must be on like like God knows how.
I, Yeah, I've lost count to be honest. I think it's probably about two. I've probably done about. I've either been in or been interviewed probably about 200 times now. I also have a live stream which I've done two seasons of called Working Lunch.
Yes.
So you know, including the interviews that I've done, I think it must be over 200 over like the last probably year and a half, 2 years. And then I'd done a few before then as well, but not as regularly. Like the thing is, at the moment, I'm trying to do like a few interviews every single week.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a really good experience. I'll sort of go through phases. So back last summer, I set myself partly because of lockdown, and suddenly I was not in the office. I was at home, so I had all this kind of free time on my hands. I probably wouldn't have ever been able to do this if we were all still in the office. But I wanted to record 30 podcasts within 30 days. So yeah, it was a sort of a tall order, but I managed to do in the end. I think it was 42, and 30 days. I kind of gave myself a break at the weekend, so it was more like 6 weeks really. But
Yeah.
42, and it was pretty. It was a full on process, but it was great fun.
Now, that is impressive. Like with those 42 podcasts, was it interviews or was it like just like doing an episode here and an interview there? What was it? Like, how did
It
you?
was Yeah, I mean, it varied depending on that. I was the guest, so that was a challenge to be guesting on 30 podcasts.
Yeah.
Some of them were interviews, some of them were, you know, again, it just depends on the format of the show. Some were really casual conversations, sort of like we're having today.
Mm,
Others, you know, you go in and you're speaking about something really specific, um, and you know, and others are just sort of like you know have like a set like list of questions. It just depends on the podcaster's style, I think.
yeah. I've got to say, I'm not a fan when it's just like when someone goes, "Yes, I have a set of 10 questions, and I'm going to go through those 10 questions, regardless of how the conversation might be going." It's like, it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
you're just sitting here, you're my puppet right now. Here we go, question one. It's like,
I agree. I think there's a good balance. I think sometimes people just write these questions because they're scared of just holding a conversation. They feel like they just need this like really rigid structure in place. But of course, part of the fun is you can meander, you can kind of go off on tangents a little bit. I think the skill as a host sometimes is to, you know, because sometimes you know you'll interview a guest and they'll start talking about something and then they'll end up talking about something completely different to what you originally wanted to talk about. So the skill is just trying to bring them back on track without being too kind of like pushy. But I think having a good, I just think of like bullet point. My approach to being a guest or to being a host is always just to have bullet points. Just they don't have to be set in stone. It's just kind of like a guide. If you're talking to someone and they tend to go a bit quiet, which again does happen sometimes, or they run out of steam or something to talk about, you've got a few backup questions that you can fall back on.
Yeah, no, I hear that. But yeah, I have to ask, like, not revealing any names, but have you had any particularly strange podcasts?
One of the worst episodes I did was, I won't mention the guy's name. I can't even remember the guy's name, to be honest. This was on my live stream, and it's called Working Lunch. And each week we have different guests on. The idea is it's quite open ended. We ask the guests to bring 3 strategies to the table, which they're an area of expertise.
Yeah.
And normally it's something stuff that my audience likes. So it could be about podcasting. Sometimes it's about radio. Sometimes it's more like about businessy stuff, marketing, entrepreneurship, etc. And I had this guy coming on, and he was, one of these guys who claims to be a LinkedIn sales expert. So he's really good at like driving leads on LinkedIn,
Right.
which is fantastic. And I thought, this is good. We've been using LinkedIn quite a lot for our kind of marketing and sales strategy over the last year. And he just came in, and it was just like the on switch had been pressed on like the Mr. I am gonna sell mode.
Oh.
And he just like didn't even answer it. It was like he wasn't even talking to me. It's just like he just went into like this weird pitch, and I was trying to ask him questions based on what he was kind of saying, just to see if I could kind of get some reaction from him.
Yeah.
And it was just so frustrating. And I was like, all he was interested in doing is just like pitch. And it was just the way he was. It was just bizarre. So that was my hands down, definitely the worst interview I've ever done.
Yeah, he may have been caught in like a bit of deer in the headlights thing, because look, what we're doing right now, like recording, like having a conversation, like that is like, okay, if there's a screw up, if there's a hitch or anything like this, can take care of that in the edit. When it's live, and like I haven't really done anything like live streaming yet, but when I do, it's gonna be like, okay, that's forever out there, all time and eternity.
Well,
what I mean?
It is. You can because I didn't like this guy, and I thought he was just obnoxious. He was just being an obnoxious salesman. Of course, as soon as the live stream finished, I made sure we deleted it. I'm like, I'm not having you on my channel, because he just didn't. He wasn't interested in having conversation. He wasn't interested in bringing any kind of value to the table. All he wanted to do was just pitch his marketing system, and it was just the smarminess of the guy that just pissed me off, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the hardest thing when, like, if you're doing anything like this, trying to sort of navigate around, like, because you see, like, I've used your service, I've used other services, and you're trying to really sort of like go, okay, how can, like, who are you, Mr. Person, or like Mrs. Lady? I need to like get you in for an interview, but are you going to be pitching?
Yeah.
Pitch. Are you going to be able, like, are you the type of person who needs those questions? Because like I've had a couple of people where like, I need to know it go this. I'm like going, but no, it's just an open conversation. Listen to what I'm doing, like, and go with it that way. And they can't do it. It's like, it's very difficult sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's just some people are still getting used to the format of podcasting. It's like one of these things that a lot of people now in business, or authors, or people who are celebrities, sports persons, whatever, they're all realizing now, okay, podcasting is a great medium. It's another way that we need to be talking to our audiences as humans, which is fantastic. But I still think people kind of perhaps just don't understand exactly, they just freeze up. Like they just, it's either like stage fright, or, again, like people get freaked out when they hear the voice recorded for the first time. They're like, do I really sound like that?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you do. Yeah, it's fine. But no one cares what you sound like. Just have something interesting to say.
Yeah, no, that's one of the hardest parts for me. When I'm like doing clips, like clips of the podcast, like, because I'm doing the editing, I'm listening to my voice, like doing like the clips. Like, I don't really want to listen to myself. Like, quickly, just get through it. Like, ugh.
Yeah,
But
you
yeah,
get used to it after a while. Yeah, get through it. Exactly.
yeah. Like, I with like more and more sort of people being turned on to podcasts with regards
Mm.
to the opportunities and sort of the power of them. Like, what do you think like the future might be for the sort of podcast, the realm of podcasting? Is it going to become a little bit more regimented, or is it just going to be kind of the Wild West as it is right now?
Well, I mean, it's quite clear that there's obviously some of the bigger companies, like we were talking about Spotify briefly before.
Yeah,
They're trying to vacuum up as much of the market as they can. Um, I think we're seeing more listener supported podcasts. So people are realizing that they're actually happy to pay for podcasts, whether that's so they don't get any adverts in the stream,
mm,
or whether it's just because they're getting access to more content than they otherwise would. I think the concept of having a sort of paid podcast are becoming more common, and people are more happy to part with their money, to support podcasters, which is a great thing. I think that's really good. Um, I think there's still obviously we're seeing more businesses like paying attention to the medium now. So it's like you've got your marketing strategy. 10 years ago, every business had to have a website, but businesses are only catching on to the idea that they also might need an Instagram account. Now every single business has got an Instagram account and Twitter or whatever. So I think it's kind of now at the stage where podcasts are in that sort of thing where some businesses are thinking, yeah, we need to think about audio as part of our marketing mix, and others are just still like, nah, it's not for us. But I think that's going to continue to change. More businesses are going to be jumping on the old podcasting bandwagon, I guess.
yeah. I
But also, I just think it's so easy for anyone to get involved with now. Like, there's not really that much. Like 10 years ago, if you wanted to record a podcast, it required a lot of technical know-how, and it was
yeah,
kind of a medium that was reserved for enthusiasts. But I think it's just so much more accessible now, both for people who want to get into it as podcasters and also listeners.
yeah. Like I got to say, with regards to what you just said there, like getting into podcasting,
Yeah,
sort of like let me see. The first few podcasts I did was with my phone and a lav mic.
yeah,
Even like didn't even record myself video, just like yeah. Like the first 8 of my podcast was just me, just speaking into the mic, giving my thoughts out there. And
yeah,
I was like going, I can't do this by myself. Need to like get a little bit more out there. Hence why I did it. But
yeah,
a £15 mic with
yeah,
my phone,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then basically uploaded it to my service provider, and I was away. And
That's it.
now with services like other services, you don't need to pay, like Anchor and stuff like this makes that easier. But there are other podcasting hosts like yourselves, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Mm. Like with regards to the matchmaker, why did you start that?
So Matchmaker it's been a really really fun project to build. It's only a year old. We launched it like late February 2020,
Mm.
and to begin with, we were looking at ways that we could drive more traffic to our podcast hosting business, podcast.co. So one of the things we sort of identified, okay, when we're looking at the marketing, a lot of people out there who want to find guests. There's a lot of shows out there looking for guests, and also there's lots of people like who want to be on podcasts, whether that be business people, entrepreneurs, authors, experts like scientists, all sorts of people who just have stories to tell, or they want to sort of share their expertise. So we kind of thought, well, this is great, and a lot of people who are looking to be on podcasts might end up then starting their own as well. So we thought, let's create a couple of pages and just put it out there saying, you're looking for guests for your show, please complete this form, tell us about what sort of guests you're looking for. And likewise, we had another page which said, are you looking to be featured on podcasts? Complete this form, tell us about what you know and stuff like this. And so we didn't have a product at that point. There wasn't, the matchmaker was just kind of this concept of these two different pages.
Mm.
But we noticed there were more and more people filling out these forms, and we thought, well, okay, maybe we're onto something here, because we don't actually have a way of connecting these two groups of people together. So wouldn't it be good if we did? And then we kind of were talking about like how it could look, and we sort of came up with the idea of like it being a bit like Tinder for podcasters, and we sort of started designing what it could look like, doing some mock-ups. and then sort of towards the end of 2019, we thought, right, okay, let's try and build this and get and have a go at it.
Mm. Yeah, I have to say, one of the things I really love about your website with Matchmaker is
Yeah,
how you can drill down and basically go, okay, I want America, and basically I want this particular state, and you can go into like particular industries and everything like this. It's very user friendly on that side of things
yeah,
because other services have used. It's a case of people are like going, what time, like keep asking what zone you're in when you kind of like go, right. It just adds that sort of other layer of complexity to it, if you get what I mean.
mm, yeah, definitely. And I think it's just the thing about Matchmaker as well is it's just there's so many people on there now. Like so you can practically find someone in every area of expertise. Like for example, I was speaking to, as part of the Match podcast, I was interviewing someone who's a scientist, and it was kind of some kind of molecular biology. I
Yeah,
didn't really understand what it was, but like he was, so so his area of specialism was super super super, a super niche, I suppose.
yeah.
Wasn't just like I'm an expert in biology. It was like whatever it was, and I was just like, wow. And he'd still managed to book interviews through the platform. So just goes to show, you can find something. There's something on there for everyone. Someone on there for everyone, rather, should I say?
Yes, like
Yeah,
like as you lovingly put it, Tinder for podcasters.
yeah,
um, yeah. So you're sort like the other thing which I've noticed about you, which like okay, I have to say with Matchmaker, yes, you guys have been extremely proactive. Like, yeah, you hit me up on LinkedIn, was like, hey,
yeah,
want to come on the podcast? You want to come on Matchmaker? We can help you out. I was like, okay. And I've seen your adverts now on YouTube a few times now. So
yeah.
like, yeah, which is great. But you also are like on the front of YouTube, like say, you are like putting out a bit of content out there to sort of help the masses, like if like with helping them decide on microphones and setups and everything like that.
Mm. Yeah, so that's really just part of my personal brand strategy. So
Mm,
that's one of the things I've been like focusing on this last year. Um, Prior to like the start of 2020, I didn't really do much of that. We have content strategy on the web properties we run. So we have a podcast.co team who push out content on there, and a radio.co team. So I just thought it'd be good to start creating some content myself as well. Personal branding has become uh, such an important thing over the past couple of years. I think like it's because I think people like to be sold to by people versus just companies.
mm.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And look, for someone who like works in the sort of sales arena before like
Yeah.
2020 and all its fun and games came along,
Right.
it's one of those things where I think if you just get someone a call or just drop someone a line over sort of like social media links, not less if you've got something where it's like, okay, yeah, you have initial value for them straight away, or they built up that sort of knowledge and getting to know you better through a personal brand.
Yeah.
It's just that much harder these days, and I think it's going to get harder for the sort of sort of calling or cold contact side of things from this point onwards.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm. So, like with your personal brand, doing the YouTube channel, I take it you're doing sort of like things like Instagram and everything like that. What else have you
Yep.
delved into?
Well, I've just started doing TikTok. I'm not sure if it's a platform for me. I've done a few videos on there now,
Yeah.
but it's it's one of those things. It does interest me. I must admit I haven't spent a lot of time like as a consumer on TikTok,
Mm,
but and I've seen people who have actually managed to build quite big audiences on there. I don't know if maybe I'm a little bit late. Like probably should have started TikTok a year ago, but it's something I've been playing with recently. I try and do one YouTube video a week.
hmm.
So sometimes that's radio-based content, sometimes it's about podcasting, sometimes it's more like entrepreneurship. But yeah, just keep it interesting. And again, it's interesting because I find that some YouTube videos just seem to do really well.
Mm.
Excuse me. And then sometimes, some of them just seem to like, you get a couple of hundred views and they kind of get lost. So it's one of those things you've got to just make sure you try to kind of always be pushing out more and more content. And it does take a lot of work. I don't do all this single-handedly. I'm lucky I've got a team around me who sort of help me with that as well.
Yeah, no. Like, I have to ask because, like, when someone goes personal brand, the first thing what creeps into my mind is Gary V. It's
Yeah.
like, Harry Manager, you got to be making 100 pieces of content every day. I'm like, okay. So what is the size of your team? What helps you work on this? Because, like, yes, YouTube editing, that is a pain.
Yeah. So we've got the team. We've got about 30 across both companies. There's 33 of us in total. So we have a production team who we have 2 videographers. Graham, who does most of my personal brand stuff, who's working directly with me, and he also works on the matchmaker content as well. And we have kind of like a relatively decent team. We've got like audio producers in house as well that work on client stuff. So not only do we make our own podcasts, we actually produce them on behalf of clients as well. So yeah, it keeps it quite interesting. But I think it means I certainly don't push out 100 pieces of content a day. I don't think even with a decent team behind me, I still think that would be quite a lot of work.
Yeah.
I try and push out maybe one good piece of content a day. So, and again, what's tricky about the whole thing is I just find. So, for example, on my YouTube channel, the radio audience is really engaged.
Mm.
On LinkedIn, I'm much more focused on podcasting and entrepreneur stuff. So it's different audiences seem to just gravitate towards different platforms. I tried a couple of pieces of radio related content on LinkedIn and they just completely flopped. For whatever reason, it's just the sort of the connections I have on there, or the followers are more engaged when I'm posting like stuff about podcasting.
Oh, excellent. No, I would imagine with regards to the sort of LinkedIn and YouTube audience, I think with like when it comes to LinkedIn, I think it's a case of a lot more people are sort of geared to that now as a sort of professional connection like thing over the last few years, rather than sort of it being sort of like podcasting being this sort of niche out there thing which made no sense to them, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's exactly the way it's gone.
Yeah, I can imagine that, yes, over the next few years, it's going to just get bigger and a little bit crazier. Um, yeah, one of the things which has intrigued me, and because I'm an Android user, I have not been able to partake, is Clubhouse. I don't know.
Okay.
It's a new social media platform. I don't know if you know anything about it, but
Yeah. I've got an account on there. I've looked around. I haven't really had much time or felt compelled to spend a lot, like engage with it much.
yeah.
I don't know why. But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting phenomenon. And, I think we'll have to see where that goes, because there's a lot of people saying it was kind of like the new podcasting, or is it something that's kind of just going to run along parallel alongside podcasting? I don't know. It's kind of just a form of audio networking, isn't it, really?
Yes, it is. And I think it's one of those things where I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be a standalone app or if it's going to just end up being a service on other sort of platforms, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, interestingly, well, Twitter have launched something called Twitter Spaces, which is almost like a direct competitor to Clubhouse.
Yeah, and okay, so with Twitter Spaces, I don't like. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's a similar concept basically. So you can have like audio discussions via Twitter.
Yeah, can anyone sort of just join into that discussion, or is it a case of invite only? Do you know?
I don't know yet. I from what I remember reading, it was a sort of they were trying it out as like a beta thing. So I'm not completely sure how it works. I've seen them sort of start to appear, but I don't. Again, I've not actually engaged myself, so I'm not sure. But I think to create a space, perhaps you have to be on the beta program, and then maybe to join in, you don't have to be. I don't really know.
No. I hear that. I hear that. But like one of the questions I have to ask, so for someone who's been so heavily involved in radio, basically hitting it up with like podcasts, champion of podcasts, and yeah, and being on something like 200 plus interviews here, there, and everywhere. If there was a list of three people, I'm not going to go with from the past, present, like you could interview today, alive and well and smiling, which three people would you like to interview?
Do you know, that's a tough one. Yeah, I'd love to interview Freddie Mercury. I'm a
Okay.
big Queen fan, and like I think he'd be really interesting. And there's very few interviews of him as well, so he'd be great to interview. Um, I think I'd probably like to interview someone like Richard Branson. That would be good. Or Steve Jobs would have been amazing. Yeah, there we go. There's three.
Right. Yes. Like I would, if it was Freddie Mercury, I would most probably ask him, how did you get inspired to write a song like Golden Boy? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's just that's like one of my earliest memories is listening to Queen. Like, I think he died when I was about 4 years old. So, I just remember it. And yeah, I just think it'd be good to interview him.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Like, yeah, I've got to say, when that guy performed, he was amazing. And like
Absolutely.
nothing really getting in his way, nothing really stopping him. But yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. And like Richard Branson, yeah, like this is the thing. How old are you now?
33.
33. You may, or you like you missed out on the time when he was on the come up, doing all of these crazy antics, like going across the Atlantic, doing the hot air balloons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he was fun back then. I think he's just basically just chilled out a little bit more now. It's like, I don't need to do that anymore.
He does. Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. I think he raised his. He was very good at branding himself as well as his actual company.
Yeah, like, if you want to know, that's a personal like brand masterclass right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Steve Jobs. I don't know how I feel about Steve Jobs. There's sometimes I look at him and yeah, Steve Jobs, great guy. And then sometimes I look at Steve Jobs and go, it's like, I want to shake you. But that's another story.
I mean, I just think he was like a proper visionary in some respects, like he came up with he was very, very good at coming up with products. But then arguably as well, there were some products that he came up with which weren't actually that popular. But yeah, I mean, iPhone is literally like, without shadow of a doubt, that's changed everyone's lives forever. It's total, one of those things that is going to go down the history books forever. So, I think from that perspective, that's why I sort of think he'd have been an interesting guy. And again, I feel like, it's sad. I think we lost him too soon. I still think he would have, if he was still around today, I think Apple would be in a different position than it is now. I don't think they're not as an exciting company as they were when he was sort of behind the reins, I don't think.
Yeah, no, this is the thing. I agree with you. They're not as exciting as they used to be, but like the two presentations which stand out to me, which was like blew my mind, was like wow, was the first iPhone. I was like, oh God. It was like, oh my God. But the one which just knocks it out the park for me, the MacBook Air, when they first did that, and he was talking away and that's like going there, and like people like, seeing it. Like, obviously that's a gimmick. Yeah, you can't really have it in the envelope. Open up the envelope and pulled it out. People, that's why. Oh my Lord! I was like, oh dear God, that was scary.
That's interesting, actually. Do you know, I've watched I've watched the iPhone one loads of times, again and again, and I just think it's a great masterclass in how to present and how to, sort of break a product down, just to explain it in simple terms to your audience. The envelope one, I remember seeing it, but I've not watched it, so I'm gonna jump on YouTube and check that out after this. Actually,
you should.
Yeah.
Now I've got to reveal to you, James. I've been hiding secrets from you, but yes, I am a being of supreme cosmic power. And yeah, I can grant you one wish and one wish only. And before you even say anything, you can't wish for more wishes. You can't like wish for world peace. You can't wish for Corona to just go away. No, and you can't write down a list of things and go, I wish everything on this paper comes true. no, James, I've dealt with this. The paperwork is a nightmare. I can't do that. Now, if I could grant you one wish, what would your one wish be?
I mean, it's not world peace, but it's close. Let's say world poverty, to end world poverty.
Ah, and with that, like, what end world poverty? Like, you had, like, if you had the controls of it, what strategy do you think you would put into place?
Oh, that's
I,
a good question.
I,
I don't know. I'm probably not the guy for the job, to be completely honest. I just think, yeah, I mean, when you hear about the fact that there's so many people who have now amassed this wealth, which is completely unbelievable.
mm,
Um, and then you think about this, literally people who can't, who are sort of living in really poor conditions in third world countries. That they can't get food, they can't get clean water. It just seems that there's such an imbalance there, and it's just not fair. So I think certainly that you need to pay attention to that, and whilst you're at it, stop deforestation. While why not? So
no problem, no problem. I'll get working on that for you.
yes, please,
Yes,
that'd
like
be
yeah,
great.
whew, yeah, like yeah. You don't ask for the small hits here. I can see that.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I'll get working on that for you. Can you tell the lovely people how they can find you out there in the big wide world?
Yeah, okay. So if you go on jamesm.com, that's my website. jamesm.com/connect is all where my social media links and all that stuff is. And yeah, check us out, matchmaker.fm. Thanks very much for having me. Really appreciate it. And it's been great speaking to you today.
Uh, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you, James, for coming on today. You have been superb. Wonderful, excellent, supreme. But yes, I'd like to say thank you to you, my friends, my life warriors out there. Please stay safe, stay well, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic, be all the positive bees you can be in this world and then some. Have a good day, guys. Yeah.
See ya.
Peace. And we are